Hi guys, I'm Jake McCrow with Direct Performance Physical Therapy. I'm here with Nicole Foley, and we're going to talk about some rehab utilizations of the Turkish Get-Up. So it's a very popular exercise. I think it's easy to make a couple mistakes, but also I want to talk about just how the Turkish Get-Up can carry over to a lot of other functional movements, really train proper mechanics for other movements that we even use for the bar, and to kind of take you through how we might teach the Get Up and make it like a small component, how we break it down into components as well. All right, so Nicole's going to start on the ground and just on your back. So the important part about this is just getting comfortable with the shoulder being in the right position and really the body in the right position. So it's almost like you're making a snow angel. You're just going to let your legs angel out a little bit and let the arms angel out a little bit. Perfect. And then we're going to work on the left arm just because I'm standing on this side. So the first thing I want someone to get comfortable with is we're going to be moving the body around a fixed arm. So it's really important that we're teaching you to stay nice and locked in and stable here. So with the patient already, we've already talked about shoulder stabilizations and packing the shoulder, and this is kind of how we carry that stuff over. So hold your shoulder right there, don't be moving. Good, so she's keeping her shoulder down and back, and we're just getting really comfortable with where that shoulder should be. Let me move you, and then pull your shoulder back in that position. Perfect, good. And then relax, move your shoulder back where it belongs, hold right there, don't move you. Good. And we're taking kettlebell and do the same thing. So before we even start the Turkish Get-Up, we're getting comfortable with where the shoulder should be, how the body's going to be moving around that fixed shoulder. So hold, don't move you. And hold, don't move you. We can do some rhythmic stabilization if you're a PT or just in general fitness world and learn that term. Good, relax. All right, so we're going to break down the Turkish Get-Up into a couple of different movements or different components. I'm just going to demonstrate the first part of it, and then I'll let you kind of take over. So, same position, so same leg, same arm. We practice keeping that shoulder stable. So what you're going to be doing is when you're moving your body, we want to make sure the arm doesn't move. A lot of times for Turkish Get-Ups, people like try to sit up, and you can see maybe from this angle, if my arm is, we want to keep the arm vertical. If I sit up, it's going like at a 45-degree angle. So the idea, it's hard to sit up and keep it vertical. So it's really important to understand like the Get Up initially has a rotation component. So you're starting from your hip, and it's a pop and a punch. So we're going to pop and punch, and when we do that, we're going to rotate onto our forearm. So it's hard to show in slow motion. We're using our hips and then punching, and then we're going to pull up. So it's really important to start with a light weight so you can get comfortable with the positioning and the control of it. So if you treat the first movement almost like a core movement and not a shoulder movement, you're going to have a lot more success. We're going to rotate and up in that position. It's okay for the shoulder, we're going to engage the serratus anterior. It's going to reach out a little bit. It's okay for that to happen because we're going to be locking out and getting comfortable with lockout positions. That's one of the utilizations of the Get-Up is getting comfortable with overhead lockout positions. But we do want to pull the shoulder back and pack. So one thing that we can do here, we're going to do together, is we can practice being passive and then actively engaged in both shoulders. I can be passively and have my shoulder roll forward, and I can be actively engaged. So it's important to kind of learn where your shoulder should be and where it should be. So we're going to practice that roll and then staying engaged. So same legs bent. You can sway that out a little bit if you need to. Some people don't. That's totally okay. And you're starting from your hip, and that energy is going from your hip to your shoulder, and then it's really nice to like kind of almost punch your hand into the floor. So it's a pop and punch. Yeah, so what most people do is they're keeping their arm nice and straight here, and what we're going to try to do is get you up into that forearm. That's what 9 out of 10 times people do is they rotate, and they kind of forget to like hop up into that position. So let's try it one more time. Nicole's purposely showing you the mistakes that we want people to make. All right, so yeah, we're in perfect position. So at least here, so you can see how, if you can tell at all, that shoulder's kind of rolling forward. So what we want to do is kind of pull it back. So if I took the PVC pipe, we're getting a relatively, not perfect, but pretty much a relatively straight line between elbow, shoulder, shoulder, elbow, wrist. that's how we're hoping to keep you active. So the things that could happen, right, is that you can push your shoulder forward, and now we're off that PVC pipe, that straight line, and we can practice getting it back and straight. So from a rehab consideration for the get up, I have patients just practice some time under tension of going active, or passive, and then going back and actively engaging their rotator cuff and teaching them where the shoulder should be. Because really, if we have Nicole stand up, it's going to be kind of a snatch position from the shoulders. So press out and then pack in, or I can practice, again, hold, don't let me move you, and ensure that she's engaging the rotator cuff and feeling it mostly back here, engaging. Is that kind of where you feel it? Same thing can happen on the right shoulder. So passively let go forward and then pull it back and engage. So really getting the lower trap, middle trap, posterior chain engage, even posterior deltoid. So passive and active. Notice that when she works the right side, the left active arm is still staying packed and stabilized the whole time. Cool, let's come back down and rest for a second. All right, so next component, we're gonna move on to the next movement. What's great about the Turkish Get-Up is, sometimes we think of it as one movement, but it's really like kind of like 5 or 6 movements. So you're gonna roll to your side. Let's go back to that first stopping position we just did, yeah? And then pack in a little bit. Again, we wanna engage the pec minor, serratus. We wanna roll it out a little bit. We're gonna keep this leg a little bit more actively engaged. If we're working on the shoulders, sometimes less concerned about what's happening down here, but we want to teach perfect form, we're good. All right, so what you're gonna do, staying nice and active in the right shoulder, is windshield wiper your hand out, and then press yourself out, prop yourself up like this is a kickstand, like you're a tripod, and you're staying nice and stable. And kind of slowly drop your hip on the left, so you're still facing the same direction that we started. And then use your right hand to kind of walk you up, so your chest, your back is more vertical. Perfect. So it's really important to know that you can move around with that right arm. Sometimes we kind of pop up and she was way back here, and that shoulder is only like 150, 160, but we're trying to get her really comfortable at end range stability. And it's really easy to feel comfortable in this position. It's less authentic for us to stay stable at end range, and that's what we're trying to accomplish here with this exercise. So it's getting comfortable walking that right hand out. So one exercise that can be as simple as kind of sliding that hand out, going back to your elbow, and then walking back in. So we can take any part of the get up and break it into individual components. And we can do 5 reps here, do 5 reps on the other side. Getting comfortable from going really to a snatch position to a press position, a jerk position, a little more. Getting comfortable with lockout, and the same thing we do on the other side, we can practice going from passive to active, or hold, don't let me pick it up. Same thing here, so you can roll the shoulder forward, and then roll it back and stay packed down. All right, Nicole, let's kind of pick up where we left off. So let's go ahead and press up, lock out, and let's do the first part. So we're gonna roll to our side with our forearm, stay nice and active there, nice straight line, looks pretty good there. And then let's do right arm, windshield wiper out and press out, staying nice and vertical here. Perfect. So the next part here is we're gonna bridge or lift up our hips and kick the right leg through. So big bridge and slide the right knee through. What ideally we're looking for is if we have her heel and her wrist, the knee is gonna bisect that right in the middle. So you can always kind of stop and look down. For patients with neck issues, I even use the get up here because they can practice rotating your chin all the way to the right and using that new range of motion that we hopefully help them gain, and then rotate all the way to the left. And you can kind of go back and forth using that motion. We've already talked about this in both components. You can basically do this in every single component of the get up, as we can practice static and then dynamic, or passive and then active positioning. So she's staying engaged throughout. Again, I can grab my dowel in a nice straight line between her wrist, elbow, shoulder, wrist, throughout. All right, so from here, you're gonna sit up or kind of windmill up. One of my favorite core exercises is practicing that windmill position. So go ahead and kick back out, windmill back down. Really practicing, you're taking the shoulder through half the range, so it's going from 90 degrees and going and sitting up to about, grossly 170, for her 180 degrees of abduction. So she can practice using half the range of motion of the shoulder. And we can go a little bit further back, so getting comfortable with where that wrist should be. Again, it's bisecting the knee or it's going to be the same distance from her knee, from her heel, will be the same distance from her knee to her wrist. Okay. Perfect. One thing she also did, and it kind of happens naturally, is that the leg gets in a straight line. A lot of times people might have their legs still in weird positions. So it's just the same way we windshield wiper the hand, we're going to windshield wiper the leg. How are you feeling? Tough, right?
Oh yeah.
Good, yeah. And let's go back all the way down the way we came. So hand back down. Good. And she's showing the other variation where you can come down to your forearm and slide out again, or you can get comfortable rotating and sliding out. I think they're both adequate techniques there. All right, so last little part of this, and I'll have patients sometimes kind of go one component and build on it, and a session can be just working on the first two components, and then next time you come in, we'll build on to the third or fourth. Usually we're kind of finishing our session, so we've already done some stabilization drills and some strengthening, and we're really kind of practicing the mechanics so we can get ready to practice shoulder mechanics into even more functional movements that they may do. I typically, get-ups are going to be done maybe 3 at most 5 reps on each side, so we don't spend too much time doing it like 4 time or after 5 reps. I'm like, okay, their shoulders are probably fatigued from this. Speaking of fatigue, let's get Nicole moving because she's already keeping her shoulder locked out. So let's go through the get-up and let's get to that half kneeling position. Roll, windshield wiper and kick the leg out, kick the knee through in that windmill position. From here, nice tight core, locked in, the shoulder's stable, and you're just gonna kind of stand up, really. It's pretty much the easiest part. I think a lot of times we do this and we think this is probably the most important. To me, it's probably the least important, but nothing happened with the shoulders. It's really just happening from the lower half. Now, if you're working for a patient, you're working on the lower quadrant, then you may want to start on the top and start from the top and practice going down. For my shoulder and neck patients and thoracic patients, I'm going to start on the bottom and work my way up. Let's go back the same way. We can go back to kneeling. Again, we can do 5 or 6 reps here. We can keep them in kneeling and do some of the things we already did, or we can just send them back the way they came. So really important to understand, like let's say she's in here for left shoulder issues, left shoulder stability. It's really important to make sure they train both sides. For one, she's going to be posting up if the weight's on the right. Yeah, you can relax for a second. If she's holding the weight on the right side, she's going to be posting up on the left side. She's going to be controlling her body with her left side to come back up when she's doing a windmill. So it's important that we train both sides as we go through this. So hopefully that gives you a couple, training techniques or training modifications or concepts that you can use in Turkish Get-Up. It's a great way to kind of finish your PT session. A great way for patients to kind of start as a warm-up or warm down for their before they work out. So it's a great warm-up technique because it really gets the shoulder engaged. In between sessions, Nicole and I were talking, and she has an issue with her shoulder being hypermobile, and we retest her shoulder, and we'll see people actually get their shoulder back to where it belongs because it's working on something called centration. So it's teaching the shoulder to stay in the position that it belongs in. Conversely, for someone who's tight, it gives you the opportunity to start stretching out. Instead of just something like a static stretch, your body's moving around a fixed arm, so you get to use a new range of motion. And sometimes you have a tough time getting your shoulder to move through. It's a kind of novel concept. It's in some aspects a close change. So instead of me trying to push my shoulder and stretch it, I'm moving my body towards a new position. And when I move my body around a fixed arm, I can get a little more flexibility that way. So it helps with that as well. Hope that helps. Thanks for your time. Thanks, Nicole.